good morning. Today, we are going to talk about logical functions. Let me introduce you to the concept of logical functions first. Logical functions in Excel are used to perform conditional evaluation of the criteria which we enter into the function, and it returns specific results based on whether the criteria is true or false. Logical functions are essential to perform different action based on specific criteria. These criteria are by comparing values, checking for errors, or combining multiple conditions. So, in a nutshell, we can say that logical functions checks input conditions and it returns value as per the logic defined by the user. Now, if you go to Excel in the formulas tab, there is a section for logical functions, and these are the logical functions mentioned in that section. They are AND, false, if error, if NA, if S, let, not, or, switch, true, and XOR. In this video, we are going to learn about the most commonly used logical functions, which are if, and, or, and if error. Now, observe the syntax of all of these functions. If works on logical test, and or works by comparing different logical arguments, and if error works based on a value. Let us check how it works in Excel. I am in my Excel right now, and I have written down that what each of these functions do in a logical fashion. First of all, let us check AND. I have mentioned that AND returns true if all the conditions are true. I have created this table down below for criteria 1, criteria 2, and then there can be multiple criterias, but we will just do this demonstration based on two criterias. So let me use AND first because I mentioned that AND returns true if all the conditions are true. So how to apply AND? I'll type equals to AND. It says logical 1, logical 2. So I'll select 1 and then I'll select 2, which means I have selected B10 and C10 for the two logics. Here you see it's giving false. Why? Because all the conditions are not true in this case. Let me drag it down and you see that where all the conditions are true, then it is returning true. Now let's come to OR. OR returns true if any one of the conditions are true, and it returns false only and only if all the conditions are false. So let me apply OR here. I'll type equals to OR. Similar as AND, it is asking for two logicals or there can be multiple logicals. I'll select first logical and then I'll select second logical cell. So I'm comparing that if the value of either of these two cells is true or false, and if either one of them is true, then it should return true. Once I dragged it down, you observe that for first row, even if one of the criteria was false, is still the OR function returned true as a result, and if both the criteria are false, only then the function has returned false. Now we'll understand this more with this example which is there towards right. Just read the objectives first. It says that mentioned qualified if qualified, else mentioned disqualify. Only students with more than 50 marks will qualify. This is the umbrella criteria. And there are two sub-criteria for that to demonstrate two different functions. First one is only male candidates will qualify. So we are working on this first column, column I, to demonstrate AND function. So I'll write the formula here. equals to and the first logic is that the students with more than 50 marks will qualify. So I have to compare marks greater than 50. This is first logic. The result of this logic would either be true or it will be false. What is the other logic? It is only male candidates will qualify. So I have to select this, and this has to be equal to male. So I have written, you can read in the formula bar as well, that G12 should be greater than 50 and H12 is equal to male. Let's see what does it return. I'll drag it down for all of them, and let me apply a conditional formatting to highlight true in green. So this is suggesting that there are two male candidates who have attained more than 50 marks. And that's how both of these criteria are met, that only students with more than 50 marks will qualify and only male candidates will qualify. So this male candidate who has achieved less than 50 marks, it does not qualify, and these female candidates who have achieved more than 50 marks, they also do not qualify. Now let's see how the OR function would behave. Here the second criteria is that all female students will qualify. So to apply the formula on this one, I'll type OR. First logical test is that the marks should be greater than 50, and the second logical is that the gender should be equal to female. Let's see what does it give. Again, I'll apply the conditional formatting. True should be highlighted in light green. Okay, so what this shows is that the male candidate who has more than 50 marks, they have qualified. The male candidate who has less than 50 marks, they have not qualified. And all the female candidates, they have qualified. And another male candidate who has more than 50 marks, they have also qualified. So this is how and OR works. Now coming to the initial objective that we had is that if the criteria is met, then it should mention qualified, else it should mention disqualified. For this purpose, we will use if condition. So what you need to observe is that this true and false is a result in itself which tells if the person has qualified or disqualified. So we'll use the same function or the same string of function inside our if. What I'll do is I'll just type equals to if, and I have placed a opening bracket before and this is the logical test which we have seen in the cell, that it is returning the value true. What I'll mention is that I'll mention one more comma, and it is asking value if true. Here I'll mention the value if true is qualified. And what if the value is false? The value would be disqualified. Now here it has changed to qualified. Let me see what happens when I drag this down. So you observe that disqualified is coming where the condition is not met. Similarly, I can apply the if condition here as well. I'll mention if after equals to, open the bracket. This is the logical test in itself, so I don't need to change anything in it, but I need to mention qualified here. And if the condition is not met, which means if the value is false, then it should mention disqualified. So here it says qualified and it says disqualified where the condition is not met. Now, what is if error? If error functions gives us an option to return a specific value if there is any issue or error in the result which is returned. Let me try to demonstrate with another example where we might get an error. So let's suppose I need to know if the person who has, let's suppose, 60 marks is qualified or not qualified. So this is marks obtained. I'll bring it here. So to do this, I'll apply equals to VLOOKUP. 60 marks. And let's suppose if this is the range in which we are looking at and our qualified or disqualified is in third column. Let me do an exact match. You would see that the person who obtained 60 marks, he has qualified. But what if I ask for a person who has 50 marks? Now since this table does not have anyone with 50 marks, hence it is giving #NA error. Or let's suppose in the formula I did not want to take it from third column, instead I wanted to take it from fourth column, which is by the way out of range. Here it is giving me #ref error, right? So how to overcome this type of error? Well, you could apply a if error formula. What you would do is you would say if error, and you have selected this value. Let me change it back to 3 so that we'll get some value in return. And we'll mention that no marks, or I want to return the text that if there is any error, then it should give no matching marks identified. And I press enter. So with 60 marks, it is giving me the result qualified. But if I select 50, it is giving me no matching marks identified. So again, what if error is doing here is that if it is finding the value and if it is not getting any error, then it will return the value itself. Like for 60, it has returned qualified. If I enter 49, it has returned disqualified. But if I enter any value for which I am supposed to get an error, it will just mention that no matching marks identified. Or I could, select any other statement like no match identified. So it would have returned no match identified. So this is how the if error and other logical functions that we have covered in this video work. Thank you for watching.